This call is now being recorded.
Okay. Good afternoon, all. So before starting, just check whether my voice is audible to all and whether my screen is visible. Please check anyone.
Yes, sir.
Okay. Okay. So once again, good afternoon, all. So today we are having only one lecture from 1:15 to 2:15, and from 2:15 to 3:15, the ATD lecture will be conducted. Okay. So in the last lecture, or in the last 2-3 lectures, we have started the chapter number 1, that is Introduction to Simple Stress and the Strain. And in the last lecture, we have covered the basic definition of the strain. So in the last lecture itself, we have discussed about the basic difference between the shear strain and the normal strain. That is how the normal strains are perpendicular to each other, and exactly opposite how the shear strain is perpendicular to each other. If any force is subjected to the some amount of shear force, how the distortion of material is taking place. So we have discussed by using this particular two figures, that is the distortion of material is taking place from A to A dash, and to its another side the another distortion will be taking place from B to B dash. And by using that particular tan rule, we have defined one formula, that is the formula for the theta. So that theta represents, or we can call it as a phi. That phi or theta, it is called as a shear strain. But as we know that the shear strain is always parallel to the cross sectional area. Why? Because whatever the shear force is applied, that shear force is parallel to the cross sectional area. So in the last lecture itself, we have discussed about this particular point, what is meant by the shear strain and how that shear strain is developed and how it is parallel to the cross sectional area. Then we have discussed about the elastic constant. As we know that there are basically 3 elastic constant. One is Young's modulus E, second is modulus of rigidity G, and third one is a bulk modulus K. So all the elastic constant represents the material property of that particular component. For example, shaft is there. If that shaft is made by the steel, then the modulus of rigidity of that particular shaft material or the steel, it will be given in the statement of the problem, and by using that particular modulus of rigidity, we can go for the further solution. Similarly, sometimes Young's modulus will be given, capital E is equal to 200 gigapascal, then G will be given, then K will be given. So these are basically 3 elastic constant which represents the material properties, and all the 3 elastic constants are having the same common definition. What is that? The elastic constant is equal to stress upon strain. So stress upon strain, this is the common definition which is applicable for all the elastic constant. But which type of stress and which type of strain, that understanding is very important for these 3 elastic constants. So as we discussed, so whatever the figure is in front of you, that figure represents the stress strain diagram for the ductile material, and in that they have represented the Hooke's law. So by using that particular Hooke's law, what is that particular Hooke's law? States that the stress is directly proportional to the strain. By using that particular statement, we have defined one formula for the Young's modulus E is equal to sigma upon E. In that, this sigma represents the linear stress and this epsilon represents the linear strain. Means Young's modulus is equal to stress upon strain, which is equal to linear stress upon linear strain. So this particular Young's modulus we have to use when body is subjected to the axial forces. Axial means if the force is applied along the axis, for example, x-axis, y-axis, z-axis, and due to that axial forces, if there is a axial deformation, or we can say that there is a linear deformation, then and then only I can use this E for the further calculation. That is, E is equal to linear stress upon linear strain. Then second one is a modulus of rigidity, or it is also called as a shear modulus. Again, the shear modulus is having the same definition, that is stress upon strain. But which type of stress? Shear stress upon shear strain. This ratio is called as a shear modulus or modulus of rigidity. So this parameter can be represented by the capital G, or sometimes it is represented by the capital C. Why here shear stress and shear strains are there? Because in the statement, whatever the heading is there, in that particular heading only the shear words are there, and modulus of rigidity is there. Due to that, we can say that this particular body is subjected to the shear force. If it is subjected to the shear force, the shear stress and shear strain are developed, and ratio of shear stress upon shear strain is called as a shear modulus. So this particular parameter is mostly used in the torsion chapter, where the shaft is subjected to the some amount of torque, due to which it is subjected to the some amount of twisting moment. If we have to calculate the angle theta, that is twisting moment, at that time we have to use this particular constant parameter for the further calculation. Then this third point we have discussed about the change in volume. So what happen if body is subjected to the some amount of external force, and if that body is a three-dimensional body. Three-dimensional means it is having the three dimensions. One is the length, another is width, and third one is a depth. So what happen if that body is subjected to the some amount of external force, its three dimensions will get changed simultaneously. If three dimensions are gets changed simultaneously, means we can say that the volume of that particular body, it will get changed, and as the volume will get changed, that body is subjected to the some amount of volumetric stress and the volumetric strain. So if I have to calculate that particular change in volume, I can say change in volume can be represented by the delta V. If I have to calculate the change in volume delta V, at that time I have to use this particular K as a constant parameter for the further calculation. So again, the definition is same. Bulk modulus is equal to stress upon strain. But which type of stress and which type of strain? So it is the ratio of volumetric stress upon volumetric strain. So these are the three elastic constants which we have to use for our calculation, or sometimes maybe it will be given as it is in the statement of the problem as a given parameter. So in detail we have discussed in the last lecture itself. Then we have discussed about the two important cases related to the deformation calculation. As we know that there are two cases when body is subjected to the external force, external load, then how its deformation is calculated. So by using that particular Hooke's law condition and the definition of the strain, we have defined one formula, that is delta L is equal to PL upon AE. So this formula represents deformation of body when body is subjected to the external load, in that P represents the external load applied on the body. And in the figure also we can see here, at the top side this particular body is fixed, and at the bottom side this P amount of force is applied, means body subjected to the external load or the axial load. Then we have to use this particular deformation formula. Then second case we have discussed about the deformation of body due to self weight. So in this case what happened, the body is in hanging position, so it is fixed at the top side, and at the bottom side it is totally free. So due to that hanging position, what happened, the weight of that particular body is acting in the downward direction. So self weight of the body will be considered as a capital W. Okay, this W represents the self weight of the body, which is always acting in the downward direction. So what we have to do, if I have to calculate the deformation in such a condition, at that time I have to use this particular formula, that is delta L is equal to WL square upon 2E. In that this particular W represents the self weight of the body which is acting in the downward direction. So the self weight is also given in the statement, so we have to use as it is. Another parameters we have to keep, and we have to go for the solution. So these are the two standard cases in order to calculate the deformation of rod or deformation of body, that is subjected to the external load, delta L is equal to PL upon AE, and subjected to the self weight, that is delta L is equal to WL square upon 2E. Then we have discussed about the stress strain diagram for the ductile material. So yesterday we have discussed in detail. So in case of a ductile material, we have considered it as a mild steel. So there are basically 6 important points. One is the proportional limit, then elastic limit, then upper yield point, then lower yield point, then ultimate stress point, and last one is a fracture. How the materials behaves in the different manners. So that points we have discussed in the last lecture. But one of the important point in case of a ductile material, in that this B point represents, here in this particular figure, it represents the maximum stress point in case of a ductile material. So here they have not represented the proportional limit point. In the yesterday's figure, the proportional limit point and another point, these 2 points are totally different. the proportional limit point is different and the elastic limit point is different. But here in this particular figure, they have not represented separately the proportional limit. That means this point A represents the proportional limit as well as elastic limit. So separately they have not represented. Therefore, here one point is less as compared to the yesterday's figure. In the yesterday's figure, total 6 points are there. But in this today's figure, only 5 points are there because this point A represents proportional limit point as well as elastic limit point. Therefore, 1 point is less as compared to the yesterday's figure. But here, as we know that this portion OA, it represents the Hooke's law. Means in the portion OA, your stress strain diagram is perfectly straight. That means it obeys the Hooke's law. Then in the portion A and B, there is an increase in stress and strain value simultaneously, and the point, the stress developed at this particular point B, or as per the yesterday's figure, the stress developed at point C will be considered as a yield stress or the yield strain. Then up to the point C, again there is a decrease in stress, but there is a increase in strain, and whatever the deformation of body is taking place, that deformation can be visible from this particular point C. Then again in between portion C and D, again there is an increase in stress and strain, but they are not proportional to each other. But there is an increase in stress. In addition to that, in this particular portion CD, what happened? There is a nick formation taking place. Means cross-sectional area goes on increasing, length is goes on. Sorry, cross-sectional area goes on decreasing, length is goes on increasing, and the nick formation will be taking place. And whatever the stress is developed at this particular top point, it is called as a ultimate stress point. And then again in between D and E, or as per the yesterday's figure DF, there is a again increase in length and decrease in cross-sectional area, and at this particular point E, or we can say it as a F, there is a breaking point or the fracture point. So these are the number of points which will be possible to see in the ductile material. Then this is also figure we have discussed how the nick formation will be taking place at the center. Here you can see in the figure number 4, this is the nick formation will be taking place, and after that how the breaking will be taking place. That means your specimen, it will get break into the 2 different portions. So that point is called as a breaking point. Then next we have discussed about the stress strain curve for the brittle material, and whatever the material we have considered, this material is called as a glass. So here only 2 points are there. One is a proportional limit point, and after the proportional limit point directly fracture is there, because in case of a glass, the glass is not subjected to the elastic deformation. ग्लास वर जर आपण थोडाफार फोर्स अप्लाय केला तर लगेच ती ग्लास काय होणार आहे, ब्रेक होणार आहे. त्यामुळे जरी ग्लासवरचा फोर्स आपण रिमूव्ह केला तरी ती ग्लास ओरिजिनल पोझिशनला येत नाही, because it is not a ductile material, it is a brittle material. So after the proportional limit directly there is a fracture point or there is a breaking point. So this is the basic differences between the stress strain diagram for the ductile material and the brittle material. So in detail importance of each and every point we have discussed in the last lecture itself. Now in the today's lecture we will discuss about the important thing related to the factor of safety. So what is meant by the factor of safety? This factor of safety is also one of the constant parameter which will be represented in the statement. The factor of safety is equal to 2, factor of safety is equal to 1, factor of safety is equal to something like that. It is mentioned in the statement. But what is the actual definition? Factor of safety is defined as the ratio of maximum stress upon working stress. So here the formula is also written. What is vector of safety? It represents the maximum stress upon working stress. Then what is meant by the maximum stress and what is meant by the working stress? The maximum stress represents the maximum limit of that particular material, and working stress represents the external load applied on that particular component in the current condition. For example, let us assume that here I will draw one figure. One rectangle is there. On that particular rectangle, this P amount of force is applied, and I can consider this P is equal to 30 kilonewton. Here also 30 kilonewton, and the maximum stress of that particular material or maximum load I can consider. So this is one rectangular body. On that particular body, this 30 kilonewton load is applied. Okay, and this 60 kilonewton represents the maximum limit of that particular material. That means this particular body can sustain the load up to 60 kilonewton only. Means this 60 kilonewton represents the maximum load applied on the body, and this 30 kilonewton load represents the working load applied on the body. So if the 60 kilonewton load is applied on this particular body can sustain the 60 kilonewton because it is having the limit up to the 60 kilonewton. But if I will apply the 70 kilonewton load, it is not possible to sustain immediately body, it will get break. Similarly, the factor of safety is defined as the ratio of maximum stress upon working stress. Maximum stress represents the maximum stress limit of that particular material, and working stress represents the stress developed due to the external load. For example, if this 60 kilonewton load is applied on the body, and due to that 60 kilonewton load, let us assume that 200 Newton per mm square stress will be developed. Means this 200 Newton per mm square represents the maximum stress point or maximum stress of that particular material. But due to this 30 kilonewton force, if there is a 150 Newton per mm square stress is developed, this 150 Newton per mm square stress represents the working stress developed in the same body. That means this 150 Newton per mm square stress is developed due to the 30 kilonewton, and this 200 Newton per mm square stress is developed due to the 60 kilonewton. Means 200 Newton per mm square represents the maximum stress limit of that body, and working stress represents the stress developed due to the external load applied on the body. So this is the basic definition of the factor of safety. Now we have to define this particular definition for the ductile material and for the brittle material. Just now we have discussed about the stress strain diagram for the ductile material and the stress strain diagram for the brittle material. And as we know that in case of a ductile material, the yield stress or yield point, or we can say upper yield point, will be considered as a maximum stress point in case of a ductile material. Therefore, factor of safety is equal to, simple definition, maximum stress upon working stress. In case of a ductile material, what is the maximum stress point? That is yield stress. And what is the working stress? We have to take as it is. Therefore, the factor of safety for the ductile material is equal to maximum stress upon working stress, which is equal to, again, yield stress upon working stress. Maximum stress upon working stress, this is the common formula for the factor of safety. But I have to define the factor of safety formula especially for the ductile material as well as for the brittle material. And in case of a ductile material, as we know that the maximum stress point will be considered as a yield stress point or upper yield point for the further calculation. But in case of a brittle material, the maximum stress point will be considered as a ultimate stress point, because in case of a brittle material only 2 points are there. One is the proportional limit, which is also there in the ductile material, but in case of a brittle material, after the proportional limit, directly breaking will be taking place, and that breaking point is called as a upper yield point. Sorry, that breaking point is called as a ultimate stress point, or it is called as a maximum stress point, or it is called as a ultimate stress point. In case of a ductile material, ultimate stress point is different and breaking point is different. If you see in the previous figure, in case of a ductile material, you can see here this point D represents, this point D represents the ultimate stress point, and this point E represents the fracture point, which is also called as a breaking point. But in case of a brittle material, you can see whatever the last point is represents, this is called as a fracture. This fracture point is also called as a breaking point. It is also called as a ultimate stress point, because at this particular fracture point, maximum stress is also developed, breaking is also taking place, as well as ultimate stress is developed is also for the same point. Therefore, in the factor of safety, whatever the definition is there, factor of safety is equal to maximum stress upon working stress. But in case of a brittle material, the maximum stress point will be considered as a ultimate stress point. Therefore, Fs is equal to ultimate stress point upon working stress. So these are the two definitions that is factor of safety for the ductile material and for the brittle material. So initially we have to remind the basic definition for the factor of safety. Factor of safety is equal to maximum stress upon working stress. Then what is meant by the maximum stress? Maximum stress is the maximum stress limit which is set for that particular material, and working stress represents the stress developed due to the external load. बघा काही कंपोनंट असे असतात की ज्या कंपोनंटला एक मॅक्सिमम स्ट्रेस लिमिट सेट केलेला असतो. फॉर एक्झाम्पल एक कंपोनंट आहे आणि तो कंपोनंट 200 न्यूटन पर mm स्क्वेअर एवढा स्ट्रेस काय करतोय, सस्टेन करतोय. मीन्स this 200 Newton per mm square represents the maximum stress limit of that particular material. मग त्या बॉडीवर जर आपण 20 किलो न्यूटन फोर्स अप्लाय केला आणि त्या 20 किलो न्यूटन मुळे फॉर एक्झाम्पल 100 न्यूटन पर mm स्क्वेअर स्ट्रेस इंड्यूस झाला, तर that 100 न्यूटन पर mm स्क्वेअर स्ट्रेस represents working stress of that particular body which is calculated by using the external load applied. मग एक्सटर्नल लोड आपण किती अप्लाय केला होता, तर 20 किलो न्यूटन. मग 20 किलो न्यूटन मुळे जो काय स्ट्रेस आला त्या स्ट्रेसला काय म्हणायचं, तर वर्किंग स्ट्रेस म्हणायचं. आणि एक जे काय मटेरियलला मॅक्सिमम लिमिट सेट केलेलं असतं त्या लिमिटला आपण काय म्हणतो, तर मॅक्सिमम स्ट्रेस म्हणतो. देन बाय युजिंग दॅट बेसिक फॉर्म्युला वी हॅव डिफाइंड द टू फॉर्म्युलेज. द factor of safety for the ductile material. In case of a ductile material, yield stress will be the maximum stress. Therefore, instead of maximum stress, I have used the word yield stress upon working stress. And in case of a brittle material, the factor of safety is equal to ultimate stress upon working stress, because in case of a brittle material, the maximum stress point is equal to ultimate stress point or breaking point, or it is also called as a fracture point. So this is the definition of factor of safety for the ductile and the brittle material. So this is about the all important and the important definitions, all the important theoretical parts we have discussed till now. Now we will solve some of the basic numericals. But in this particular chapter, which type of numericals we have to solve? There are so many variety of numericals are there which we have to solve in this particular chapter. Now these are the various types of the numericals. That is, the first is related to the stress and strain calculation. That is, we have to calculate the sigma. Sometimes we have to calculate the strain. Then second is related to the deformation calculation. Means we have to calculate the delta L parameter. So in the last lectures or in the also today's lecture, we have discussed about the deformation calculation due to the external load. Delta L is equal to PL upon AE. This formula we have to use in this particular second type, or sometimes delta L is equal to WL square upon 2E. If body is subjected to the self weight, then we have to use that WL square upon 2E formula. Then third type is related to the composite bars. As we know that composite bars, if more than two materials are combined together, then that material is called as a composite material. For example, one steel rod is there and another aluminum rod is there. If steel and aluminum are combined together, or both are subjected to the single load only, then that combination of steel and aluminum is called as a composite bar or composite rods. If steel and aluminum are combined together, then it is not called as a steel aluminum, or it is not called as a aluminum steel. So one common word is there which is called as a composite bars. So simple definition is there for the composite. That is, if two or more materials are combined together, from which one new material is developed, then that new material is called as a composite material, or it is also called as a composite structure. So such types of the problems also we have to solve in the type number 3, that is related to the composite bars. Then type number 4, it is related to the volumetric strain calculation. So we have discussed about the elastic constants, which is called as a bulk modulus K. By using that particular bulk modulus K, we have to calculate the volumetric stresses and the volumetric strain. Sometimes the K will be given as a given parameter, volumetric stress will be given to you, and we have to calculate the volumetric strain. Sometimes K is given, volumetric strain is given, we have to calculate the volumetric stress. Then one more parameter we have to calculate, which is called as a change in volume, which is represented by the delta V. So if the body is subjected to the single force, and due to that force, if the three dimensions of the body will get changed, that means from length it becomes delta L, from width it becomes delta B, and from depth it becomes delta D. That means due to the single force, all the three dimensions will get changed. Means we can say that the volume of that particular body will get changed. And if I have to calculate that volume, such types of the numericals we are going to solve in this particular type number 4. Then change in dimensions. Change in dimension represents the all the dimensions of the body. That means we have to calculate the delta L, we have to calculate the delta B, we have to calculate the delta D. This all calculations are comes in the change in dimensions calculation. So there are so many variety of problems are there in the type number 4 which we have to solve. Then type number 5, elastic constant. As we know that elastic constant E, G and K. These are the three elastic constant. Sometimes Young's modulus E is given to you, modulus of rigidity is given to you, and they are interested to find out the capital K. Means we have to calculate the bulk modulus K. Sometimes K is given, G is given, and they are interested to find out the Young's modulus E. That means out of the three elastic constants, one or two elastic constants are given as a given parameters, and by using that given parameters, we have to calculate the another elastic constants. So such types of the calculation of elastic constant problems we are going to discuss in the type number 4. And in that elastic constant concept, we are having the three important derivations. So that derivation represents the relation between all the elastic constants. So we are having the three relations. So which are those relations? That is, here I will write E is equal to 3K in bracket 1 minus 2 mu. Then E is equal to 2G in bracket 1 plus mu, and E is equal to 9 kg divided by 3K plus G. So these are the three elastic constant relationship. That is, E is equal to 3K. That means two elastic constants are there. E is there and K is there. This first formula represents the relation between Young's modulus E and bulk modulus K. Then second, one elastic constant E is there, another elastic constant G is there. That means second formula represents the relation between Young's modulus E and modulus of rigidity G. And third formula represents, which includes all the elastic constant. That means E is also present, G is also present, and the K is present. That means all the three elastic constants are there in the same formula. That means third formula represents the relation between all the three elastic constants, that is E, G and K. And we have to solve numericals based on this particular three formulas. Also, we are having the derivations also. Prove E is equal to 3K in bracket 1 minus 2 mu. How this particular formula is developed, that derivation we are having, and 101% this particular derivation it will be asked in the examinations. Also, this particular three formulas are important for your MCQ questions. So simple question will be there in your examination. The relation between E and K represents the following formulae. So the four formulas will be given to you, and out of that four formulas, we have to correct the, or we have to choose the correct answer. That is, E is equal to 3K in bracket 1 minus 2 mu. Then we have to prove E is equal to 2G in bracket 1 plus mu. How this particular formula is obtained? That derivation is there in your syllabus. Once that particular point is started, then we will first of all we will derive the derivations, and then only we will go for the solution of the numericals. And then last derivation also we are having, that is E is equal to 9 kg divided by 3K plus G. हा फॉर्म्युला आला कसा, तर त्याचं एक स्मॉल डेरिव्हेशन पण आपल्याला काय करायचं आहे, डिराइव करायचं. सो दीज आर द relation between all the elastic constant, that is E, G, K. In addition to that, one constant parameter is also there, which is called as a mu. The mu is also there in the all the types of formulas. Therefore, that mu is also considered as a one constant parameter. And last type is related to the Poisson's ratio calculation. Just now we have discussed that is mu. Sometimes all the elastic constants will be given to you, and they are interested to find out the Poisson's ratio. Or sometimes, as we know that one important definition is there for the Poisson's ratio, lateral strain upon linear strain. This ratio is called as a Poisson's ratio, which is represented by the mu. So sometimes in the statement, lateral strain will be given to you, linear strain will be given to you, and by using that we have to calculate the Poisson's ratio. So these are near about 6 to 7 types of numericals are there in the chapter number 1, which we have to solve simultaneously. So these are the basic types of the numericals which we have to discuss in this particular chapter. Now, the problems on bars of a herring cross section, this is the type number 2, but before that, just we have to start with the type number 1, that is stress strain calculation. So type number 1, in that particular type number 1, we have to define some of the important formulas. So which formulas are important? Just wait, I will display the list of the formulas. Okay, so now we'll start with the type number 1. Okay, before that, whether you have understood some of the theoretical parts, whatever we have discussed today, that is factor of safety we have discussed, then we have defined or we have revised some of the things which we have discussed in yesterday's lecture. Have you understood all the theoretical parts, all the important definitions, which type of numericals we have to solve in this particular problem? Anybody is having any problem? If there is no any problem, we will start with the type number 1, that is problems or numericals based on the type number 1 related to the stress strain calculation. Anybody is having any problem?
No, sir.
No, sir, no.
Okay.
No, sir.
Okay. Now we will start with the type number 1. So what the type number 1 represents? Type number 1. Type number 1, problems on stress and type number 1 represents the problems on stress strain calculation. So important formulas. Which formulas are important? So out of that, the first important formula is related to the sigma is equal to P upon A. This is the formula number 1. Then strain is equal to change in dimension upon original dimension or change in length upon original length. Then we have to use one elastic constant formula. Young's modulus is equal to linear stress upon linear strain. Then formula number 4 we have to use, that is deformation calculation, that is delta L is equal to PL upon AE. Then formula number 5, delta L is equal to WL square upon 2E. Then formula number 6, factor of safety is equal to working stress, sorry, not working stress,
Maximum stress upon
maximum stress upon working stress. Okay, so these are the 6 formulas which we have to use in the type number 1. By using that particular 6 formulas, we can solve any type of numericals based on the type number 1 related to the stress calculation and related to the strain calculation. In addition to that, some constant formulas are also there. For example, if rectangular section is given to you and if we have to calculate the cross sectional area, then what is the formula for the rectangular section area formula? That is L into B. Sometimes the circular rod will be given, means the diameter of rod will be given in, if I have to calculate the cross sectional area, then area is equal to pi by 4 into d square, then area is equal to L into B. So these are the constant formula. This is for the circular cross section, this is for the rectangular cross section or the square cross section. So these are the common formulas which we can remind very easily. But these are the 6 formulas. Stress is equal to force upon area, which we have to use for our calculation. Strain is equal to change in dimension upon original dimensions. Then E is equal to linear stress upon linear strain. Then formula number 4, it represents delta L is equal to PL upon AE. PL upon AE means this formula number 4 is subjected to the external load condition. Then formula number 5, again delta L is equal to WL square upon 2E. In that W is represented, means this formula is represented for deformation due to the self weight. And formula number 6 is the factor of safety. Here I have written the common formula. Factor of safety is equal to maximum stress upon working stress. So for the ductile material, we can remind very easily, factor of safety is equal to yield stress upon working stress. And for the brittle material, formula is there, factor of safety is equal to ultimate stress upon working stress. So these are the important formulas which we have to use in the type number 1. Okay, so if you are having your notebook, so please note down all the important formulas. Put the title type number 1. Here I forgot. This is the type number 1, that is problems on the stress and the strain. And now important thing is that we have to focus on the convergence. Because what happened, sometimes the Young's modulus will be given in gigapascal, sometimes it will be given in megapascal, sometimes it will be given in giganewton per mm square. But our requirement is that we have to convert all the types of load. For example, if P is given in kilonewton, we have to multiply by that P by the 10 raised to 3. We have to convert it in Newton. If any dimension, for example, length or diameter or width, if it is given in if it is given in meter, so we have to multiply by 10 raised to 3. So we have to convert all the dimensions in the mm. If the force is given in kilonewton, we have to convert it in Newton, means multiply by 10 raised to 3 or 1000. If length, width, diameter, if such types of the dimensions are given in meter, we have to convert that all parameters in mm by multiplying by 10 raised to 3 or multiply by 1000. If E is the constant parameter, Young's modulus, if it is given in gigapascal, for example, 1 gigapascal is equal to 10 raised to 3 Newton per mm square. For example, in your statement, 200 gigapascal is given. Capital E is equal to 200 gigapascal. But what is our requirement? We have to convert that particular capital E in Newton per mm square, because all the parameters we have converted in mm, all the dimensions, all the types of loads we have converted in Newton, all the dimensions we have converted in mm. So whatever the Young's modulus is there, that Young's modulus also we have to convert in Newton per mm square. And if the Young's modulus is given in gigapascal, so 1 gigapascal is equal to 10 raised to 3 Newton per mm square. If such types of the gigapascal is given, we have to multiply by 10 raised to 3 and directly we can convert in Newton per mm square. Therefore, for example, let us assume that take E is equal to 200 gigapascal. So how it is converted in Newton per mm square? Therefore, 200 into 10 raised to 3 Newton per mm square. So this is the E which is converted in Newton per mm square if it is given in the gigapascal. Okay, so this is about the 1 gigapascal. One more parameter, 1 megapascal is equal to, we know that 1 megapascal is equal to 1 Newton per mm square. As it is, 1 megapascal is equal to 1 Newton per mm square. Then sometimes E will be given 200 giganewton per meter square. So how it is converted? E is given 200 giganewton per meter square. I have to convert that parameter in Newton per mm square. E is given in 200 giganewton per meter square, but I have to convert it in Newton per mm square. So how it is to be converted? So here I will write at the top, E is equal to 1 giganewton is equal to 10 raised to 9 Newton per mm square. So here at the top giganewton per mm square, हे जर तुम्ही बघितलं giganewton हे वरच्या बाजूला आहे, मीटर स्क्वेअर हे खालच्या बाजूला आहे. 1 giganewton is equal to 10 raised to 9 Newton. So what I will do, here you can see 200 into 10 raised to 9. Giganewton is converted in Newton. At the top I am writing E is equal to 200 into 10 raised to 9. That means giganewton is converted in Newton. At the bottom side, meter is present. If I have to convert meter to mm, multiply by 10 raised to 3. So it is presented at the bottom side, means 10 raised to 3 आणि त्याचा स्क्वेअर. 10 raised to 3 म्हणजे काय झालं? Meter is converted in mm, means 1000, and here meter square is present. So I have taken the square particular as it is. That means your modified step becomes 200 into 10 raised to 9 divided by 10 raised to 6. जे 3 दोन्ही 6. Okay. Then capital E is equal to, this 10 raised to 6 is present at the bottom side. If I will take at the upper side, what happen? 200 into 10 raised to 9 into 10 raised to minus 6. Why? Because 10 raised to 6 is present at the bottom side, therefore it is positive. If I will take it at the top side, so it becomes 10 raised to minus 6, and finally I will get 200 into 10 raised to plus 9 into 10 raised to minus 6. ह्या दोन्हीची काय होते? बेरीज किंवा वजाबाकी होते. Means 9 minus 6, it becomes 3. Therefore 10 raised to 3, that is E is equal to 200 into 10 raised to 3 Newton per mm square. Getting? So like that we have to go for the convergence first, and then only we have to use that converted values in our further calculation. So please keep in mind always whatever these constant parameters are there. For example, in the statement of the problem, if P is equal to 20 kilonewton, if it is given in kilonewton, immediately in the given parameter multiply by 10 raised to 3 and we have to convert it in Newton. Then second, if length, diameter, width, depth, if these parameters are given in meter, immediately we have to multiply by 1000 and we have to convert all those parameters in mm. But important point is that Young's modulus, if Young's modulus is given in a Newton per mm square, we have to take that Young's modulus as it is in the calculation. If it is given in Newton per mm square, if it is given in gigapascal, only we have to multiply by 10 raised to 3 and convert in Newton per mm square. For example, 210 210 gigapascal असं जर दिलं असेल तर लगेच 210 into 10 raised to 3 Newton per mm square. 200 gigapascal, again we have to take 200 into 10 raised to 3 Newton per mm square. If E is given 210 giganewton per meter square, त्याचं पण डिटेल कन्व्हर्जन आपण बघितलेलं आहे. गिगा न्यूटन पर मीटर स्क्वेअर दिला असेल तर लगेच त्या 210 ला 10 raised to 3 न मल्टिप्लाय करा आणि डायरेक्ट ती व्हॅल्यू काय करा, न्यूटन पर mm स्क्वेअर मध्ये काय करा, convert kara. And 1 megapascal is equal to 1 Newton per mm square. It is already there. So these are the conversion parameters which we have to understand first. If you have not converted this particular parameters, your final answer will be wrong. मग तुम्ही फोर्सचं किलो न्यूटनचं न्यूटन मध्ये करता पण एखादं डायमेन्शन मीटरचं तसंच ठेवता. So it will create problems during your calculations. Have you understood how the parameters are converted, how the E will be converted? If it is given in gigapascal, त्या gigapascal किंवा त्या गिगा न्यूटन पर मीटर स्क्वेअरला डायरेक्टली 10⁻³ न मल्टिप्लाय करा आणि न्यूटन पर mm स्क्वेअर मध्ये ती व्हॅल्यू काय करा, कन्वर्ट करा. जर न्यूटन पर mm स्क्वेअर मध्येच E ची व्हॅल्यू दिलेली असेल तर नीड नॉट रिक्वायर्ड टू गो फॉर एनी टाइप ऑफ कन्वर्जन. ऍज इट इज वी कॅन यूज दिस पर्टिक्युलर E for our further calculation. Understood? Have you understood the list of the important formulas? Which are the important conversions? How the E will be converted in Newton per mm square? Everyone, anybody is having any problem? Please ask. Okay, so that related all the calculation part. Whatever the list of the formulas are there, whatever the conversions just now I have explained. So all these particular formulas, all the important conversion, it is also there in the notes. So I will share that particular notes so we can refer that particular notes for your better understanding. But just for before giving the notes, it's a responsibility to understand all the list of the formulas for the type number 1 and all the important conversions. These conversions are not applicable for this chapter or for this type only. This conversion part, it is applicable for all the 8 chapters, because in all the 8 chapters such types of the given parameters in kilonewton, some meter, some centimeter, some gigapascal, giganewton, megapascal, meganewton. So such types of the values are given in different types of the units, but it's our responsibility before solution of any type of numericals, we have to go for convergence in the given parameters, and then only we have to use that converted parameters for our further solution of the problem. Okay, so I hope you have understood. So today we will stop here. So I request all the students, please type your roll number in the chat box for your attendance. The second lecture will be for the ATD. So I request all the students, please type your roll number. Roll number is also sufficient because now the roll numbers are given to you. So type your roll number, or sometimes your name also it is there for your attendance.